that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
We're actually abolitionists ourselves.
I would have no problem with abolition.
This is a booklet that we're handing out to people, and we're saying, hey, as Christians, we're followers of Jesus Christ. We want to call for what God tells us to, and He says to call for justice and plead for truth. And so we're seeking to immediately abolish abortion and to call for of not only murdering their children, but also of seeking to make rules about how to murder children. Because I don't see a regulation law as a law that I should support, because I wouldn't support a law that says you can murder your husband if you thought about it for 24 hours, or if you strangled him but you didn't dismember him. I think that those would be unjust laws for people who are born, and I'm supposed to love my neighbor as myself. And so I don't think we should make rules about how to regulate the murder of other people.
We don't make laws to regulate when a woman can be raped, right? But we'll make it to regulate when a baby can be murdered. And have any of you read the Value Them Both Amendment?
No, I've not personally read it.
Okay.
The
part of the wording is in there, the major body of the wording is there. And then at the bottom of the page is a link to my blog site where I have gone through it as more of an assessment of all the different phrases going through the Value Them Both Amendment and the proposition for it, and what it says, does, and establishes. Because the Value Them Both Amendment does really not value them both equally. Because it says because Kansans value both women and children, they want to establish the right to regulate how women can murder their children. It'd be like us saying, well, because we value both men and women, we want to make rules about how, when, and in what circumstances men can beat up women. Like, would that be valuing women and men equally? It actually would be valuing them, neither of them, because men shouldn't want to do that, and women shouldn't be beaten. So what we would say is we need to have equal protection, equal justice for all human beings. And guess what? The Kansas Constitution already has that. The right to life, the right to equal justice, the right to face your accusers, that's in general for all humans. However, the Value Them Both Amendment, while in the same amendment it says it does not give a right to abortion in the Constitution, trying to correct what the state Supreme Court said. They said that the states have the right to regulate the abortions.
It actually puts that in the Constitution.
If you can regulate something, you're allowed to do it. So that's inferring that there is a right to abortion. And I don't believe that anyone has a right to murder, and we don't have a right to regulate how people murder. We have a duty to protect people from murder, prosecute those who do murder. That's the duty and justice for us. But it does follow, the wisdom of the pro-life movement for the last 49 years has been to make laws to regulate abortion, to trim at it. It's like if you have a tree, a murder tree, and there are lots of different branches that are connected to that. And let's say over here is the partial birth abortion ban. Abortion over here is the cutting apart, the dismembering. There's all different varieties, and so the pro-life movement lops off those branches to get rid of the tree. And so they get rid of the branch, and they all cheer that the branch was taken off. Oh, look, now we're going to only protect those who can't feel pain. Ones who can feel pain, we're going to protect now. But the thing is,
the root's still there.
It did not protect the ones that were younger, and so it's a partial bill. God hates partiality. But on the other hand, it cuts off that. But pruning a tree does not kill a tree. My parents had fruit trees. When we cut branches off of trees, we weren't trying to kill the tree. We were trying to make it more fruitful. We were directing the growth of the tree. And sadly, the pruning of the abortion tree has made abortion more efficient. They're killing babies earlier.
Cleaner,
now you
more
can
efficient.
go to CVS and Walgreens at the corner of Happy and Homicide and kill your baby earlier.
Or you can order it online.
And there's nobody, there's murder by a mail. Online abortion you can order in different places. And so it's not really stopping the murder. And that we say, oh, well, look, this bill that says that you have to have wider hallways so that a gurney can get in if there's an emergency at a facility where they do abortions, then that abortion will shut down because they couldn't afford to do the remodeling. Hooray!
That
The
does
thing
always
is,
make sense.
They built other facilities that are bigger that do follow the pro-life rules, and now instead of going to an old, dirty, filthy, ramshackle building where the parents can actually feel like, oh, this isn't right to do because look at the places I'm going to kill my child. Now they're going into a well-lit, beautiful, very, very respectable-looking building, and that solaces their conscience, makes them think that this must be healthcare.
And these pro-life laws that are being passed that regulate when, where, and how a baby can be murdered, the people that come to these abortion mills to murder their children, they look at these laws. They say, well, my baby can't feel pain, so it's okay. A bill that says that the pain-capable bill says if your baby feels pain, you can't murder him. If he doesn't feel pain, go ahead. That soothes the conscience of the mom saying, well, your pro-life bills, they say it's okay. So it's okay. It must be okay before God. It must be okay, and it soothes my conscience. And we've seen that, right?
Yes, we have.
And
I have moms in bed saying, hey, pro-life movement's pushing for heartbeats. You know, if your house has a heartbeat, then you can't have the abortion. I have moms and dads come to me, it's okay. My baby doesn't have a heartbeat yet. It's like, where did they learn that? They learned it from the pro-life movement, that it's okay because they know where it's not allowed. Because if I say I believe that children are human beings from the moment of fertilization and I won't let you kill them until they get this old, what am I telling you about before? It undermines what we've been saying we believe.
And another thing that the pro-life movement teaches is that every single mom who murders her child is a victim. That, like, no matter whether she's been raped or she doesn't want to be pregnant anymore, they teach that every mom's a victim. What that teaches mothers who murder their babies is that this is not a big deal. I'm the victim, not my baby, and that's why they kill abolition bills. The pro-life Republicans have been killing abolition bills in this country because they don't want the mom to be punished. They show partiality to the mom. They don't treat her as a murderer. They treat the child as the one that's guilty of a crime, and they put the child to death. And that's biblically unjust. Showing partiality to the wicked, to the moms who have murdered their babies. They're the ones who are wicked, most of them.
And that is why we have Roe v. Wade in the first place. It's because the U.S. Supreme Court told the Texas attorneys that Texas says that these are human beings and so they have the right to life in the Constitution. But Texas, you don't treat their murder as if they're humans.
So Harry Blackmun.
So that Harry Blackmun
he
said,
was the Chief Justice.
If an abortionist kills a baby, that abortionist only gets like 2.5 years in prison.
No punishment for the mom.
That's not equal justice to if they had killed a born person. And there's no prosecution or anything for the mother, who's the one who actually hired the assassin to kill her baby. And so it's because Texas didn't give equal justice to children that we have abortion as a decree across the land. But Roe v. Wade is not the law of the land. It's a court opinion. Courts don't make laws. Legislators make laws.
Have you ever heard that before?
So abortion's not, the Roe v. Wade's not the law of the land. It's the lie of the land.
I was just in here talking to folks who are at the around the Kansans for Life meeting inside that room, and one of them I talked to, he believes that Roe v. Wade is the law of the land. He told me that, and that the Supreme Court has the right to make that law. And I was telling him, no, the Supreme Court, they have disregarded the law of God, they have disregarded the Constitution, and therefore we must ignore them when they do that. And any opinion they make that disregards God's law first and foremost and the Constitution, it's not law. It's null and void. It's like it was never passed in the first place. It doesn't exist.
Let's say that they said today, 5-year-olds have not gone through puberty. They're not fully developed human beings. They're dependent on you. They live in your home, location, level of development, independence. You can abort them if you want to. If they did that, Kansas would have to stand up and say, that's murder. We're not going to let that happen in Kansas. We're going to ignore what you say in that because that is unjust. Pre-puberty is just as arbitrary as pre-birth. And so what we should have done in 1973 was ignore Roe. We should have said, no, you do not have that authority, and we're going to ignore that in Kansas. We're actually going to follow the Constitution, even if you don't.
We can do that today.
That's why abolitionists say to ignore Roe, because murder is not a right in the Constitution. And so we are seeking to stand for truth, to speak the truth, and to call for justice. The scripture tells us in Psalm 119, 128, it says, "Therefore I esteem all thy precepts concerning all things to be right, and I hate every false way." So when we have looked and we've seen what God has said, this is right, then when something doesn't line up to it, we have to reject it. Which is why I have on my rock, I just painted this, to refuse the shears that are not establishing justice, and use the axe, and actually takes the axe to the root and say, no, all abortion is murder. We're not going to treat it like health care, because that's what regulation laws do.
That's what the Value Them Both Amendment does. It's just another regulation bill, and it puts the regulation in the Kansas Constitution. Is that what we want? Like, after 49 years of this, is this the best that we can do, continue to regulate baby murder like we've been doing for the past half century? Or can we actually abolish it? We can abolish it. I was encouraging folks in there, compare the Value Them Both Amendment to the Bible. Compare an abolition bill to the Bible. Compare like what the pro-life movement's teaching, as it's taught all of us. Compare it to Scripture. Is the mom really a victim in every circumstance? Is the abortionist, should he just be getting a slap on the wrist? A $10,000 fine for murdering the child. Back in the 70s, a Right to Life leader on the radio said that the mom should get no penalty for murdering her baby. You know what he said that the abortionist should get? He should get a traffic ticket, just a ticket for murdering their first child. No prison time until the third conviction, until the third baby he murders. A Right to Life leader said that, I think back in the 70s on the radio. And a pastor heard that, and he said, well, what's the big deal about abortion? There's no punishment. It can't be murder if there's no punishment. Because how do you know the severity of a crime? Is the punishment, right?
The penalty.
The penalty.
It shows you how serious it is.
Like someone who gets a traffic ticket, they didn't do something that serious. Someone who murders a bunch of people, guns them down in cold blood, he's going to get life in prison or the death penalty. So you see the seriousness of the punishment, right? But the pro-life movement doesn't believe in punishing moms, and they believe in giving a slap on the wrist to the abortionist. So what are we teaching? We're teaching the world that abortion is not murder. In our own laws that we're passing, they're teaching people this.
So I guess this is the way a lot of politicians are trying to combat abortion, is through this, because if you don't have this Value Them Both Amendment, then they have unlimited abortion, is what we're told. So,
well, actually,
what
the
plan
thing
do you
is,
have?
okay, first of all, I've heard people say, well, because of what the Supreme Court said in 2019, that means that there are no more regulations in Kansas against abortion. We stand outside abortion mills, including ones in Kansas, and we see them actually following the rules, the laws that have been made by Kansas. I know of a girl who was turned away from killing her baby because she hadn't waited 24 hours. That is a Kansas regulation. It had not be just immediately vaporized because of that. But another thing we have to recognize is that every single one of those laws that are endangered, in quote, by this statement by the Supreme Court, every single one of those laws are iniquitous. They're all regulating murder. They're all laws that would have to be repealed anyway when we put forward a bill of abolition. There is a bill in Kansas to abolish abortion, and it necessarily have to repeal all those laws, because you can't say you can't kill, and you can if you wait 24 hours. We can't have those kinds of inconsistencies. So it has to repeal those unjust laws anyway. So what we should do, instead of saying, oh no, now the regulations are in danger, we can say, now is our chance to truly press the legislature to do what is right, to do their duty and establish equal justice. They need to hear a demand from the citizens, because right now, all they hear is from the lobbyists, from the pro-life organizations, and the citizens who are just following the lead of the pro-life organizations. The same pro-life organization that 2 years ago stopped the bill to abolish abortion from even being put forward. They threatened the representative that they would campaign against him if he put it forward.
Kansas for Life.
because they don't want it to endanger the precious value of them both amendment. They don't want to abolish abortion, they want to regulate it. And in Texas, Missouri, in Alaska, in
South Carolina,
in Pennsylvania, in Arizona, in Oklahoma,
Idaho, Indiana,
have abolition bills have been put forward, and they've all been killed by the pro-life movement.
and by the groups that are pressuring the pro-life politicians. Do not pass this abolition bill, pass the pro-life bill, because they say the abolition bill gets struck down by the Supreme Court. They're not going to hear it. It's going to make it harder to end abortion, which is totally wrong what they're saying. Okay, do not hear this abolition bill, pass the pro-life bill. We can get that passed, and it's not going to be challenged by the Supreme Court. Well, if it's not going to be challenged by the Supreme Court, is it even worth it?
Because the bills, the pro-life bills, are.
We're with Topeka High's newspaper stop, and we were wondering if you wanted to answer some questions about today's activity.